Hey.
Who knows? Who knows? I got a message the other day also that my recordings, my Zoom recordings were on the cloud were like 85% full. So I deleted all of them, but they're all on YouTube, so it doesn't really matter. So let's see, Mary came in, Leanne came in, Renee came in, Nicole came in, and somebody named iPad came in, and Vicky came in. So welcome. I'm not sure who iPad is, but welcome anyway. Glad you're here. Sometimes we get people on their phones. Sometimes we get Mary Jo just came in. Welcome, Mary Jo. And Cindy, look at that. We're filling up. We're filling up. And Allie is here. Allie, my daughter's name is Allie, but she spells it A-L-I because it's short for
Oh,
Alexandra. Are you short for Allison?
I am. And
All right.
sorry, we're right in the middle of dinner time with
Oh,
my little
please.
nugget. So
Oh,
I'm going to mute myself. He'll probably be
it's
loud.
okay. It's all right. Yeah, you don't ever have to be on video. You don't have to have sound on. As a matter of fact, this happens a lot. People will come in and their sound will be on, and um, and then their husband will walk in the room and start talking to them. So if I ever mute you, don't be offended. It's just that somebody's talking on your end and it's interrupting me, and I don't like to be interrupted. So I don't mind being interrupted at all. All right. But we've got everybody here, not everybody, but a good group here. I'm really excited about that. I think every time we do this, we get a few new people who come in, and I'm glad to see that. This week, for those of you who haven't done this before, this is really extremely informal. I always do, I'm just me. I'm not a performance person. I'm not, it's just me and you. And this is just an opportunity for us to be in community together and to go through this element. You can ask questions if you want. You can stop me and say, I've got a question. Don't feel bad if you have to do that. I talk a lot, but I do try to remember to stop and let other people chime in with ideas as well. If you've read it, if you haven't read it, it doesn't really matter. Of Optavia, the Optavia program, we're killing two birds with one stone tonight. We're talking about the LifeBook, which is one of the four, I don't know what the word is that you want to use, but one of the four key factors is the fuelings, obviously, is the first one. Your coach is the second one. The LifeBook and Habits of Health is the third, and community is the fourth. So we're getting LifeBook and community in there. You're getting a little free coaching thrown in because, I'm everybody's coach. And I don't think any of my actual clients are in here, and they'll probably listen to this later on down the road. So most of my clients I reached out to this week and said, I'm a terrible coach. I'm not good one-on-one. And I'm just being totally honest here. I'm not good one-on-one. I'm great in groups. I'm great on social. I'm great doing YouTube videos, but like the one-on-one kind of thing is not great. And I said, if you really need to have somebody that can talk to you one-on-one every week and you feel like I'm not meeting your needs, please, I will not be offended if you find another coach. And I am happy to say that every single one of them took me up on that. So I'm really glad of that. But still, if all of my clients today said, you're not meeting my needs, I would say, I apologize that I'm not meeting your needs, but if you need somebody else, please find somebody else, because having that support of a coach is so very, very important. No, now I am there for if they need me, they know they can text me, they can email me, they can call me, they can message me on Facebook, whatever, and I'm there for them. So I'm not saying that I'm not there for my clients, but I've also told many people in the last 2 weeks, I'm done taking clients. I'm not taking any more. I can tell you who to go to if you need a new coach, but I'm not taking any more clients. but I am happy, happy, happy to coach you for free. And that is truly my goal, is that, thank you, Vicki. It truly, my goal is just to help people. And I don't want the money. I don't want the business. I honestly, the 1099 is kills me. So it's anyway, that's another. Element 16, dealing with addictive food. I'm not going to ask you if you read it or not, because it doesn't really matter. But in this element, we are going to explore the dangers of addictive food, identify your personal susceptibility to these addictive foods. And that's something that you kind of have to do on your own, but we'll talk about it. And then reinforce the importance of using the portion control plate system. Now, this really focuses more on people who are in the maintenance portion, transition into maintenance. We've kind of the first 14 or so elements dealt more with the weight loss. And if you haven't gone through those, I definitely recommend that you start at the beginning of the LifeBook, that you really do dedicate some time to work through. I don't know that everybody is going to be committed enough to say, I'm going to work on it for 15 minutes a day or whatever. But if you can, at the beginning of each element, it actually tells you how long you should take to work on it. So this element 16 is a 1 week element. When you get to this element, just commit 1 week. If you read it in a day and then just take the rest of the week to kind of meditate on what you've read, go back and read sections again. It just really is well worth the time to go through the LifeBook as you are developing new habits, because this is something that it's a lifetime problem. I was talking to somebody on YouTube the other day and said, weight loss is not a vacation. It's not like a vacation that you can go and do your weight loss and then you can go back to your life and carry on. If you go back to your life and carry on, you go right back to the weight that you were before. So, and I think a lot of times we treat weight loss like a vacation. I'm just going to go on a diet for 3 weeks. Okay. You go on a diet for 3 weeks, you lose 10 pounds, and then you go off the diet and you gain 10 pounds. It just, the older I get and the more I've read these books, the more I realize I was fooling myself. I was trying to go on a vacation and not making these changes permanent. And if you really want to understand what those changes are that you have to make and why you have to make them, reading through the LifeBook is really going to help with that. The first thing that he talks about, and it says in bold letters at the top of page 318, highly refined processed food is an addictive substance. And, white flour, white sugar, he talks about that a little bit later, but we are a society of processed foods. And it's amazing to me. And honestly, pay attention to the comments that people make about the things that they miss, aside from fruit. But people are saying they miss things like tacos. Like, I'm sorry? Like, how? I appreciate that. I understand that we miss those things that we love. But pay attention. What are you craving? Are you craving those things that are just not good for you? And it's not your fault too. And that's the one thing you have to remember, is that the industry has made those foods so highly addictive to us. It's not our fault that that's what we're craving all the time. 10,000 years ago, I'm going to read not a lot of this, but quite a bit of this chapter, just because there's so many things in here that really stand out to me. 10,000 years ago, it was highly advantageous when we could assume a food's health benefits by its beautiful color, overwhelming fragrance, and the sweet taste of the fruit itself. Unfortunately, today our society is completely saturated with cues to signal tasty, sugary, salty, and easily obtained unhealthy, ultra-processed foods. And it's also very telling when people are needing to feel like they need to add so many things, like, oh, I'm going to add all of these seasonings and I'm not going to count them because they really don't matter much. Hello, food addict. Yes, they do. You're adding things because you're so unused to the taste of the food itself, that we're so conditioned that things have to be really salty or really sweet or really sour or really bitter in order for us to taste them. And that's really unfortunate, because that's a huge downfall. Everywhere you go, you're inundated with advertisements and enticing brands, pictures, videos, and access to highly processed, highly addictive foods that is portable, cheap, and available for just about any occasion. During those times when you are under stress, having an emotional crisis, or just bored, it offers a quick fix by sugar jolting your energy and providing immediate, short-lasting pleasure. And that is the way those processed foods are. I absolutely love watching YouTube videos. And I watched a wide variety of YouTubers, from homesteaders to Disney experts to cruisers. I just watch all different kinds of YouTube videos. I love to watch them. And one of the series of videos that I see pop up in different YouTubers is they will do Dollar Tree dinners. And so they go to Dollar Tree and they eat just Dollar Tree food for a week. And I happened to catch this woman the other day, and I realized this is how sad I am about our society, is that there are people who don't have a lot of money and they have to do their shopping at the Dollar Tree because that's where they can find affordable food. And it breaks my heart that the foods that they're finding are bologna and hot dogs and hamburger helper and chicken nuggets that aren't even made with chicken. It's so sad to, it breaks my heart. And we wonder why America is full of fat people. It's because we can't afford to buy anything else. And it's just so sad to me. We're so conditioned to all of that processed foods, and providing people, this is just a side, I don't know, social idea. Why are we not providing people with more healthy options and finding ways to provide people with whole fruits and vegetables, and make those processed foods so freaking expensive that you really have to go out of your way to actually buy them. But that's not the way it is. That what we are used to is this processed foods, and they are as addictive, and he does say this later, as addictive as cocaine and heroin. Like, sugar is highly addictive. In part 2.5 in Dr. A's Habits of Health, he talks about the color-coded shopping system. And I wanted to, and it says read the white powder section in that chapter. And so I did want to read some of that. It's on pages 241 and 242. And white powder does not mean cocaine. Well, it does kind of mean cocaine, but not really. Coca, chewing and drinking coca tea, is carried out daily by millions of people in the Andes. It's considered sacred with indigenous cultures. It does not cause any harm. In fact, it is beneficial to human health. But as you will know, the coca leaf can be refined and turned from a healthy natural food into a dangerously addictive substance. And this is what really stood out to me. That is exactly what happened with sugarcane and flour. They have turned from a healthy food with great nutritional value into cheap, readily available calories that have little or no nutritional value and create metabolic and inflammatory havoc. They are also highly addictive. And he does also say excess sugar has been shown, this is in the margin, has been shown to accelerate aging and inflammation. It is like candy for cancer cells. It also leads to a smaller brain. Studies show that as your blood sugar increases to the higher end of normal, your brain begins to shrink. There is no reason to add sugar to your diet beyond what you get from fruits and vegetables. Some of us are more susceptible than others. We will have you take a survey in your LifeBook to determine how susceptible you are. It will make a difference to your long-term success. It is, when you read through, the element, and he talks about how addictive sugar, all the refined kind of flours, if you can stay away from things that are white, then you are much better off. So somebody commented on my cookie recipe, or my bar recipe. No, I think it was my cookie recipe on the My Optavia recipes page. He said, why are we using why are we using white flour? Well, there's no white flour in those cookies. It's actually whole wheat flour. Whole wheat flour is good for you. Whole grains are good for you. It's when they have been refined that a lot of the nutrition is taken out, and there's little to no nutritional value in white flour or white sugar. So why are we eating it? These powders form the basis not just for breads and buns, but for a huge variety of processed foods, from cereals, crackers, and pizza dough to cookies, cakes, and ice cream cones. As a result, the average American now eats 10 servings of refined grains each day. 10. That's crazy. And as we showed you in part 1 of Habits of Health, refined sugar isn't everything. In fact, we're consuming an average of over 150 pounds of refined sugar and flour products a year. 150 pounds. That's crazy. That's an incredible amount. And the fact that people are eating 10 servings of refined grains each day is remarkable to me. I think for me, I'm trying to think about my day. So I eat oatmeal, but that's not refined. And I'm trying to think of what else. If I have one of those cookies, it's got oats in it again. So, and flaxseed. So again, not refined. I don't know. Occasionally I will have a piece of bread, but it's homemade. It's bread that I make myself. Occasionally I will have like a cooked grain, but I think I've had farro a couple of times. I just really am, like, because of my addiction to food. I know for me, I need to stay away from grains as much as I possibly can. And so I think that is a really good reminder. The more he talks about this in a little bit, and I'll say that till I get there. Hopefully, he says, oh no, I talked about how the food industry is creating an addiction to this food. And by now you're probably tired of me talking about how bad these foods are that make up the habits of disease. But he talks about those foods, those processed foods, and it's not just the flour and the sugar. It's anything that has to be, that's not a whole food, right? So if it's not a lean protein source, if it's not a vegetable or a fruit or a whole grain, then you need to be really cautious about what you are eating. When it comes to things like condiments, and a lot of you are still in the weight loss phase, the purpose of condiments, if you read in the Optavia guide, the purpose of condiments, the 3 that you get, is to add flavor to your lean and green meals. That's what it says in the guide. Now, I realize that there are people who use condiments with their fuelings, that will have almond milk with their shake or whatever, and that's fine. You do that. It's not the way that the program was intended, but you can you can do that. And nutrition support will tell you that you can do that. You can have your condiments really anywhere during the day. But I really want to encourage you, read labels. Get into the habit now of every time you pick up something that is not a whole food, look at the label, look at the ingredients, get to know what is in the foods, because if there are things in there that you can't pronounce, you probably should just put it back on the shelf. And I will say, what the one thing that I always gets me every time, I bought three in the time that I was on 5-in-1, I bought 3 bottles of Walden Farms products. I bought a bottle of ranch, tried it once, threw it away, like literally threw it away. I bought a bottle of Thousand Island because I wanted to do the Big Mac salad, and I used it maybe twice, maybe 3 times. And I bought the pancake syrup because I wanted to make was the General Tso's chicken recipe, had that in it, and the firecracker shrimp or something had that in there. I'm a Yankee. I grew up in New Hampshire and Vermont. So, I eat real maple syrup. I don't like log cabin. No. Aunt Jemima, no. Like I never bought it. It just, it's gross to me. But I did buy it. But read the ingredients. Does it not make you stop and wonder if it has 0 calories, 0 carbs, 0 fat, zero, what the heck is in it? And what are you putting into your body? If it has no nutritional value at all, why are you eating it? Like I don't know. And I know people love those things and they like them for their flavors and the salad dressings, and I just know if it's got a bunch of stuff in it that I can't find in my own refrigerator or pantry, or if I can't pronounce the words, it probably isn't something that I should really be eating. It's probably highly processed. So kind of, yeah, it's okay if it's in something, Ellen, where I'm not like, but I would never have put it on like a pancake or a waffle. I just, it's gross. I am a real maple syrup girl. And I've always said, it's like, I don't do margarine. It's real butter or nothing. It's real mayonnaise or nothing. I'm not going to do the fat-free. That's like, if I can't have I do the light mayonnaise. I like Duke's light mayonnaise. That I will do. But there are very few things that I will do that are processed. When I was on Whole30, I made my own ketchup, which is really good, but it's made with dates, and I think it's really high in carbs, and I haven't figured out a way to make ketchup that's lower in carbohydrates. But that's kind of in the back of my mind, because I do like to make as much of my food as I possibly can. I'm like a pseudo homesteader. I don't have a big garden, and I don't can. I'm going to learn to can, but I don't can right now. But I think if I could be a homesteader, I would be a homesteader. I don't know. I love to make things myself and know the quality of those ingredients. Anyway, refined processed foods, super bad for you. Not only are they unhealthy for you, they're highly addictive. And because they are unhealthy for you, they are highly addictive. And because they are highly addictive, they are unhealthy for you. So it's like this big, huge cycle. For those of us who have met our weight loss goals, or those of you who are close to it, hopefully you're coming out of phase 1 at the healthiest weight and the highest level of well-being you have had in years, and realize this is as much due to eliminating toxic foods as it is about reaching a healthy weight. And I think absolutely, for me, I can tell you 100%, I am at a healthier weight than I've been in 50 years, and I'm 58. So, I mean, like, probably since I've been on a diet since I was 12. So, for most of my life, I've been on and off diets and have struggled with my weight. And I am healthier now than I've ever been. that I know of, and I know it is, a lot of it is because I have finally said, I'm done with eating these things that are poison to my system. It is really hard to say no to something once you've said yes. And I found, at Christmas time, I've shared with you guys at Christmas, I made cinnamon rolls for the family. And I was like, well, I'm in maintenance and I can have this, I'll just be careful about everything else that I eat for the rest of the day. It's going to be kind of like my treat, which was fine. But because I hadn't had that in a very long time, my body was like, absolutely not. We do not like this in our system. And I was miserable for the day. So number one, my body said to me, this is toxic. This should not be here. What are you doing? You got rid of all this out of our system and now you're putting it back? I don't think so. But I will tell you that it's a lot easier now to say yes to those things. Now that I've done it once, and I mean, obviously I've done it more than once, but still, I learned my lesson and know that I can have a bite of something and I'm okay with that. I can take a taste. My son, they had a baby shower for my daughter-in-law on Saturday, and my son had, it was kind of like a brunchy thing, and so my son had a donut, and I was like, oh, I haven't had a donut in so long, so I just took like a little pinch off the end of his donut, and it was like, you know what? That's all I needed. That's all I needed. I didn't need to eat the donut. I didn't even need a bite of the donut. I had a little tiny taste of it. And it was enough for me to go, all right, yeah, I remember that taste. It's all right, but I don't need it. I really don't need it. And being able to say no. Avoid, and this is so true, avoid introducing ultra refined sugar and flour into your diet at all costs. They are kryptonite and cause insatiable hunger and cravings, leading to addiction and loss of control. And I would say absolutely that is true. It is a slippery slope. As I've said many times, you have to make permanent changes to your lifestyle. And that means letting go of certain foods and saying, I'm done. I can't do that anymore. If I let that food back into my life, then I'm going to let the weight back into my life. He talks next about insatiable hunger. And, how many times do we, or have we, just like felt like we can't get enough to eat? Like oh, I'm just going to have a handful of this. And then, but then I want a handful of this, and then I want a bite of that. And it's like, it's just constant. Or the ability to, as he says at some point in here, sit down on the couch and eat a tub of ice cream. And without even really thinking about it. Our body creates something called leptin. Leptin is the hunger suppressant hormone released by your fat cells that tell your brains you're not hungry anymore, right? He talks about it in part 2.8 in Habits of Health. And we all have it. However, researchers have found that as insulin rises in response to eating sugar and flour in refined foods, it blocks leptin and it is no longer capable of suppressing hunger. So that's crazy. Like just the effect of the refined sugar, the refined flour is enough to turn off those hormones that tell your body you're full. And so you will sit there and continue to eat. He says, he talks about this little study about mice. He says, was it because they had no willpower or because they were weak? No, it was because the refined foods flipped the metabolic switch. And this explains why before starting this journey, you may have found yourself on the couch eating a whole tub of ice cream at 10 p.m. So if you experience an urge, stop, challenge, choose. This is where that motto, that whatever comes into play here. When you are feeling the urge to have something that you're not supposed to have. I mean, let's face it, we all know when those cookies are sitting there that we're not supposed to eat them. So stop, challenge, choose. Ask yourself, why do I want this? And is that actually going to solve is that going to bring me closer to my health goals? And is it going to really solve the problems? And if you feel you need something sweet, Satisfy it with a fueling that doesn't flip that switch. So, for those of you who are in maintenance, have some fruit that is sweet. If you are in weight loss, choose one of the sweet fuelings like a bar or something else, to try to help you get past that, so that you're not continuing to fuel your body with those things that you shouldn't be having. The second problem with refined sugar and flour is that they light up the brain just like cocaine and heroin. So this is where he talks about how they are as addictive. When subjects are placed in MRI machines designed to show areas of the brain that are activated after consuming sugar or refined flour, the subject's pleasure and reward center lights up like a fireworks display. The hyperactive area, known as the nucleus accumbens, releases a large amount of dopamine, which creates a pleasurable feeling that leads to the desire for more, right? You know what else releases dopamine? Make yourself a checklist of the things that you should be doing during the day, or the things that you should be eating during the day. And every time that you check something off the checklist, your brain releases dopamine. So that's much better and much healthier than eating sugar and refined flours. Find ways to release that dopamine, to get that pleasure hormone going. And one of the best ways to do that is checking things off a list. Have a rewards system for yourself. For those of you who are still in weight loss, set yourself little goals, especially when you're down to like the last 10 pounds, it can really be a struggle to stay focused. Make yourself a little rewards chart and put stickers on it if you have to, or something that's going to help keep you focused and give you that little burst of happy hormones as you're trying to get off those last little bits there. If you continue to eat sugar and refined processed foods, the brain adapts rapidly and starts to thin out the dopamine receptors because it senses that too much dopamine was released. As a result, the receptors downregulate. So now you lack the ability to feel the same level of pleasure unless you eat large amounts to stimulate enough dopamine release. So the more you eat, the less dopamine your brain is going to release, meaning you're going to want to eat more and more and more to get more dopamine. So get rid of this stuff out of your system and don't introduce it back in, so that you're not thinning out those receptors. He starts to talk about the susceptibility to refined sugar and flour. And there is a little checklist thing that you can go through and to see how susceptible you are. I really struggle with these kinds of quizzes because part of my brain knows what the answers are supposed to be, and so I tend to like lean towards those answers. And it's not that I'm trying to be dishonest, but even like that actual answer doesn't feel right to me. So I don't know. I did this and I think I came up fairly even. Like the only things that I said that I did rarely, I crash in the afternoon and have trouble waking up in the morning. That is not me. I'm a morning person. I feel guilty after eating. No, maybe I felt a little guilt after I had a cinnamon roll, but I make pretty healthy choices, so I don't typically feel. So I didn't really score really high on the whole rarely thing. The occasional and daily, I split 4 and 4 when I did mine, but I still think that I am highly susceptible to food addiction just because I know me. I know Lizabeth, and I know what I struggle with, and I know that, don't give me a loaf of bread. I baked bread today, by the way. And I love to bake bread. But I just can't. I might have a piece at some point, like one piece out of the loaf that it has to go, my husband has to eat it. Like I just can't. Because I know me and I know my limitations. And for me, a food addiction for me is like an alcohol addiction for an alcoholic, right? I just can't. And I think some people just don't understand that there is a difference between somebody who is a dieter, you know, who just wants to eat healthy, and somebody who really has a food addiction. And it's, I just think people are not, a lot of people are not willing to admit that they actually have a food addiction. They just want a quick fix, and don't want to admit that they actually have a problem. However, on the next page, on page 324, he says, if your score was high, then you want to avoid eating any sugar or refined flour processed foods now that you have reached a healthy weight. Okay, perfect. We like that. By a little farther down, by adopting my healthy eating system and choosing only low glycemic, green coated foods, you can potentially keep your risk low. You can eat whole fruits, especially the lower GI deep green ones, but stay away from any processed fruits such as fruit juices or canned fruits with added sugar. This is where I wanted to remind, because I did my week 1 transition video. And the one thing that I forgot to say, and someone actually commented, made a comment that I answered today about these foods, vegetables. So in week 1 of transition, for those of you who are there or are going to get there, in the guide and on page 223, it seems to say that you can choose any vegetables, right? It says, I'm trying to find, where is it on? Oh, I know it's on page 277, where it gives the breakdown of the week. And you'll also see it in the guide where it gives the breakdown of the week. On week 1, it says 1 cup, 2 servings of your favorite vegetables. In parentheses, it says any kind, right? It says it on page 277. It also says it in the guide. But if you turn the page, so still just like on the back side of that page, it says week 1, add vegetables, add any vegetable from the green section of the charts. All right. So this isn't a contradiction. This is just I think that chart is very basic. And then it gets broken down more on this page. So add any vegetable from the green section of the charts. And if you go to, I'm not sure where it is. I'm going to find it in the Habits of Health, but on page, oops, oh, my ring off. On page 224 in Habits of Health, and that's an easy one for you to find if you have the book there, it lists all of the vegetables, and it's very similar to the vegetable list that like the vegetable conversion chart, vegetable. And this list actually is on page 212 in Habits of Health. So it's the same. It's the exact same list on either one of those. And it's all of the green chart, the vegetables that come in that green section that you can have. And it was somebody who had asked me about carrots. I said, well, carrots are not on that chart. So they're not any of the actual green in the green section. Now, if you also look in Habits of Health, so 212 is the big list. That's kind of like the 5-in-1 list, the weight loss list. But on page 247, this is the maintenance list. All right. So if we look at the green list of maintenance, it lists zucchini, spinach, peppers, onions, mushrooms, lettuce, alfalfa sprouts, artichokes, arugula, asparagus, fennel, cucumber, cabbage, squash, Brussels sprouts, bell peppers, broccoli, chives, leeks, celery, cauliflower, and chili peppers, right? So that's in the dark green section. So that's really what they're saying. This is the green section. This is what you should be adding. So you could add artichokes and Brussels sprouts in that week of transition. The next level, eggplant, this is kind of the medium green. So it's still a low glycemic. Eggplant, green beans, and raw carrots. So that's kind of like, well, could you add raw carrots in week 1? Maybe. I would still stick with the lower than try to do anything at first that's going to change too much. You're already adding extra calories. I would save those starchy things for once you get into maintenance. And then the peas, taro, corn, red beets, and cooked carrots are high GI, and they're in a yellow section. So that is my answer to the whole issue of vegetables in transition. Just kind of threw that in there because he talked about his using those deep green things and staying away from anything that's higher processed. Just say no to anything that's not green. He says that a couple of times. Just say no to anything that's not green. Just stay away from and like thinking about the charts, right? I think that's what he's talking about. You can eat an amazing array of healthy whole foods along with our prepackaged fuelings and keep the resulting hunger and cravings away. But whole foods, right? Whole lean proteins, whole vegetables, fruits, whole grains. Those are the things that you should be looking for. Then he says, review everything for hidden sugar. And I'm turning the page to something else. Stop it. Review everything for hidden sugar and flour. So always look at your nutrition label. Anything that ends in OSE is like dextrose, sucralose, like that is going to be a sugar, which you probably need to stay away from. Look at the list on part 1.1, which describes all the ways the food industry tries to disguise sugar. And I'm not sure if I found that. But I did find, how the food industry sabotages. And I'm not going to, if you want to read through, if you have habits of health, I would strongly recommend read pages 44 and 45, how the food industry sabotages your health. All of the things that they are doing to our processed foods to make you want more and make you come back and buy more. If you can shop the outside of the grocery store, the outside aisles of the grocery store. So you're shopping produce, you're shopping dairy, you're shopping meats and fishes, and you're sticking to that outside aisle. That's where the healthy foods are. If you can avoid those inner aisles as much as you possibly can. There are some good things in there. And, you know, I go and buy condiments, I go and buy oats, I go and buy almond butter, you know, like there are things that I buy that come from the middle aisles of the store. But pay attention to what you're buying. When you buy almond butter, read the label. Don't buy the almond butter that has sugar in it. There's almond butter that is just almonds. And, you know, or peanut butter that is just peanuts, although almond butter is probably better for you than peanut butter. But read the labels and find the things that are the best for you. The other thing that I wanted to encourage you with is we all are in different places in our lives and we all have different budgets. So choose the best that you can afford on your budget. You know, we can't all afford to eat organic everything. We can't afford to go and get our free range chickens and pasture raised pork, and you know, like we can't afford to do all, not all of us can afford to do all of that. But do try to spend your money wisely, and as you can afford to buy things that are organic, I would encourage you to try to do that. There are some fruits and vegetables that, hang on, I'm going to Google it. There are some fruits and vegetables that you absolutely should, if you at all possibly can, get organic. They're called the Dirty Dozen, and you can Google it and look it up. Apples, I'm going to just scroll through this. Peaches, nectarines, strawberries, grapes. Celery is like one of the worst. You know that the reason why non-organic celery is so green is because they use formaldehyde. Spinach, you know what they use formaldehyde for? Yeah, if you ever took biology and you had to do any dissection, all of those things were floating around in formaldehyde. Sweet bell peppers, cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, imported sugar snap peas, and potatoes. So as much as those are the dirty dozen, the ones that are the most susceptible to pesticides. So just a little FYI. Oh. Also, I know another little produce thing I'm going to tell you while I'm thinking about it. Garlic, right? So garlic, you really want to buy garlic that's grown in the United States and not in a foreign country. And the way you can tell the difference, if you buy whole heads of garlic, flip the garlic over and look at the bottom. If all of the roots have been cleaned off of the bottom and it's like smooth underneath there, that is foreign. If the roots are attached, it is grown in the United States. And because they have to take those roots off of the garlic head before it is brought into the country. So when you go in the grocery store and you're going to buy garlic, flip it over, buy the ones that have the roots on it. And sometimes you'll find them like in the same bin. But anyway, that's just a little tip from Lizabeth. It's only when we start eating the food industry's ultra processed food like substances that we lose control. And by avoiding those sugar and flour substances, you will stop the wild surges of dopamine release that can create cravings leading to addiction and loss of control. So, and I know from my own personal experience that have something sweet, need something salty. Have something salty, need something sweet. Have something sweet, need something salty. And it's like a never-ending cycle. Like you can never get fully satisfied. It's just this huge back and forth, and it's definitely an addictive behavior. He does say in the middle, the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. Actually, I have two things to say, two things to read. By moving through phase 1 and continuing to adopt my eating system, you can rewire your brain and it will become automated. So it takes time to build new habits. If you are in the high susceptibility group, you are more likely to be sensitive to sweetness and refined flour products, so you will want to avoid them to prevent a relapse into cravings again. And I wrote on here, underneath that paragraph, I wrote, be honest. This is your future. You are not fooling anyone but yourself by saying, oh, I can eat that and I'll be okay. I mean, it's your health. So if you can eat that and be okay, but don't tell yourself you can eat it when you know what the result is going to be if you do. Practice daily and integrate all aspects of eating into your integrated habits of health clock. Leave nothing to chance. Log everything. Find something you can use to log what you eat. I know somebody else has said, I don't think it's realistic to do that for the rest of your life. And for somebody who doesn't have a food addiction, maybe that's true. But I know for me, I probably am going to write everything down. And for the foreseeable future, I will be writing down everything that I eat because that's how I'm holding myself accountable. And it's also a way for me to know when the scale starts to go up, I can look back and go, what did I do? What did I eat that I shouldn't have eaten? Because I've written everything down, and I'm writing everything down because I have to be honest with myself. This is for me. Like I'm not, anybody can look at my log if they want to, but I'm writing this down for me. So if I don't write something down, if I eat something, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to write that down. Well, I'm only fooling myself. It's only hurting me in the long run. So, be honest. This is your health. This is your health journey. Be honest with yourself and write everything down. He does say at the very end, because this leads into the next element, we have not focused a great deal on motion, increasing activity, or exercise during phase 1 because our focus was on what is most effective in weight loss. Now that you are transitioning, you're probably feeling better, more flexible, and carrying around less weight and pressure on your joints. It is now time to shift our focus to motion. So the next session that we will do in 2 weeks, we will talk about healthy motion, because element 17, and I've already read this one, but I'm going to read it again, because this is really, these last two elements have really spoken to me, because food addiction is very real for me, and motion is not my forte. I've never been an exerciser, but I will tell you that I crave activity now. I would have sat on a couch for 2 weeks straight 2 years ago and not thought a moment about getting up and moving. But now I can't. Like I have a recumbent bike. I want to get on that every day. I will get on it a couple times a day. I actually, because I work from home, sometimes I take my laptop and I stick it on the table next to the recumbent bike and I pedal away while I'm talking to somebody on the phone. Like I crave doing that. I get on my bike and ride it around the house. I want to get out and do things. And I know that has a lot to do with the fact that I weigh a whole lot less. There's a lot less pressure on joints. And I just all around have incredible energy. Ellen, you said, I talked about how highly processed the Optavia fuelings are. And he addresses that back in the element where he talks about fuelings. Yes, they are processed. However, they do use, if you read the ingredients on there, you can pretty much, you know what all of those ingredients are. The very last ingredient, it's some weird word. Oh, I don't know if I have ingredients listed on these. I have some sitting here. No, they're not on there. But it's actually that last item that's on the ingredients list on pretty much all of them is the probiotic that they put in there. I think for the most part, if you read the ingredients, they're regular foods. They've just been processed down. I don't know exactly where it is in the LifeBook, but he does talk about the fact that yes, they're processed, but it is for this time to get the weight off, and they're not using processed flour and they're using whole grains, and they're not using refined sugar. So they're using, you'll see brown sugar, you'll see honey, you'll see the different sweeteners. Yeah, in a sense, the end does justify the means. They are processed, but it is for a short period of time. And the things that are addictive are not in those foods, if that helps at all. You kind of choose your battles. And if you didn't want the processed foods, you can always follow the process that he has written out in the Habits of Health, where you are still eating 100-calorie, 5 times a day, and a lean and green, and it's possible you're just not going to lose as fast because you're not getting the added, there's not as much balance, because those fuelings all have a balance of protein, fat, and carbs. They have vitamins and minerals. They have a probiotic. If you do it on your own, you will still lose weight, but you won't lose it as fast as you're losing it on using the fuelings. So does anybody have questions? You can unmute and ask. You got things about, yeah, Ellen, I think, are you using a scale? Because that's what I've been on maintenance since the beginning of November, and I weigh everything, but honestly, I do this. I either will weigh things, fruits and vegetables, at either 100 grams or 50 grams. It's just easy. Like 100 grams to me is about a cup. 50 grams is about a half a cup. It's not exact, but when I record what I eat in the Prosper app, I put in 100 grams or 50 grams, and it tells me how many calories, how much protein, fat, and carbs are in there. If I just remember 100 or 50, that's a whole lot easier for me. And I also am making sure that I'm trying to stick to only 2 servings of fruit a day, and then trying to make sure that I'm having at least 3 or 4 servings of vegetables, so that I'm having more fruit than I am vegetables. And sometimes that is a little more helpful. Anybody else have anything? You guys are quiet today. Not even Becky. Like, what's up?
I actually have a question for Becky.
Oh,
Hey,
I noticed that
hello.
your books are bound. Did you have your
Yes.
books bound?
Um,
Okay.
this is the Habits of Health. I didn't do my LifeBook one because they wanted to take it away, and I didn't want them to take my
Okay.
personal information away. Yeah, you can buy. I bought a LifeBook actually online that was bound, so I've got two
Okay.
LifeBooks.
Okay.
It makes it a
right.
lot easier.
Yes.
like
Okay. I'm going to do that.
yeah, like Office Max or Staples, whatever. They'll do it. Most of them will do it.
Okay.
Although I
Thank you.
will say that this is a half of a book.
Okay.
So, make sure you know what you want. When I went in, they gave me a bound that was so huge, it looked ridiculous. So I went
Okay.
somewhere else and just had them do it in half. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I'm excited. March 1st for me, Elizabeth.
Oh, you're so close.
Yep. And I just set that date, and I'm probably not going to quite be to my goal, but like you said, just have to set a date and do it. And I'm feeling really good. So thank you.
Good. I'm so proud of you.
Thank
It's
you.
so
Me
awesome.
It's like we went snow tubing, my son and grandson, a couple weeks ago, and I told him, I said, here, the end of February, it just snowed. We're gonna have to go skiing. He just told me last night, probably won't be able to go this season. It's like, I want to go so bad. Get me out on them slopes. But I need somebody to go with me. My husband won't, so have to wait until the end of the year.
I used to ski when I was a tyke. But I don't know that I could ski now.
Well, I told him, if you want to do the black diamonds, I said, I'll be fine to stay on them bunny slopes with our 5-year-old while he's learning. I said, Grams will be fine staying on the bunny slopes. So I said, I just want to get out there. I just want to get out there, just like you. You want to be on your bike. You want to do. That's me right now. I just want to go out and do. I can't wait for spring because I can walk the trails on our property.
Yep.
It's exciting.
Bobby, tell me what worries you about vacation. Are you still on weight loss or are you on maintenance?
I am, excuse me, I am on transition. I will be going into week 4 next week. And I find that, and I'm finding it a real challenge for me this particular week because I've added the vegetable, I've added the fruit, and I've added the dairy. So if I go anywhere, and I have to have something out, I'm freaking out because I have no way to measure things. And when I get home, I'm like, oh, shoot, I had too much time here, not enough time here, and I didn't get everything in. So here I am trying to cram everything in at the end of the day. So, I mean, I know I'll figure it out, but when I go on vacation, there's no scale. There's, I'm just worried how I'm going to handle it.
So I can tell you what I have done is, first of all, I have a little travel size food scale. It's the size of a calculator. And that is easy to, I have a travel size. I have an insulated lunch bag. I have a couple of food jar thermos type things that I use. And even when I was on 5-in-1, I never left the house without that lunch bag and several fuelings inside of it. So I was always prepared. I always had my food scale with me. I carried those little packets of Holland Perry salad dressing. So I always had a packet of salad dressing that I could use that counted as a condiment. If we went out somewhere to eat, I could get a salad. And it's totally possible. I went on many vacations and brought fuelings with me. I prepared stuff ahead of time, or we were staying in a condo or a hotel where I could just make stuff there. Just go in with a plan. Don't go in and say, well, we'll just see what happens. Like, even if you don't stick to the plan every day, at least you've got a plan of a list of, these are the fuelings that I have for each of these days. This is, I kind of know where we might be eating out a couple of times. And so look at the menu ahead of time so you know what you're going to order. And I think I said this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about transition and maintenance, is when you go to the restaurant and you order a meal, ask for a to-go box at the same time. Like when they bring your food, ask for a to-go box and take half of the food and put it in the to-go box and then eat the rest. It's probably a decent lean and green portion if you take half of what they give you. It's a pretty safe bet. Or bring your food scale with you and weigh stuff if you want. So
Yeah, I might bring my food scale and my shaker and some shakes and of course some bars and stuff. But at that point, I'm going to be in maintenance. I don't know. I don't know who's maintaining who.
yeah, well, once you're in maintenance, it's great because you can really eat anything. You just have to log it. And a lot of
Right.
restaurants will provide you with the macro information for their meals. As a matter of fact, I think it's almost required for them to provide that information. So I know, like, there's this really great restaurant it's not near me, but it's near my daughter. And it's kind of like a healthy version of Chipotle. Like, Chipotle's fine, but this is it's called Core Life. Does anybody have a Core Life near them? Oh my gosh, it's so good. They have this massive variety of different bowls, and they have grain bowls and all kinds of really good things, but they give you the macros. So I can just enter the macros for what I eat if I get something from there.
Right.
But most places tell you which should be helpful to you. And just, stick, when you go out, stick to the same things. Like Ellen said, you're ordering grilled fish or grilled chicken, you're getting a salad, you're getting steamed veggies, just asking for those things that you can have. And, eyeball what a cup size is, that's
Right. Right.
do your
I'm
best.
actually paying close attention when I do measure my foods out here. I'm looking at it going, okay, like one serving of broccoli. Actually, that's not a lot of broccoli. Half a cup of broccoli is not a lot. So anyway, I'm trying to do that now just to, because I know I'll have to eyeball things a lot when I'm out. And I guess the worst case scenario, if I gain weight, I'll just go back on the 5 and 1 for a little bit when I come back. But I'm hoping that's not necessary.
Cindy, I will post the link again. I think every time I think that I've realized, I'm not positive, but I actually have a room, a number and a code that I could just use all the time and just keep the same one. I'm not really good with Zoom. I just figure it out as I go, but I'm going to look into that. And if I actually have the same one, that will be helpful, because then once you have it, then you don't have to find the link every single time. So I think I will see if I can do that, but I will post it on the Facebook groups a few days before, whenever I actually set it up. So
Real quickly, Elizabeth, sorry. Somebody did ask. So this is the Habits of Health book. And when I did it, it was like the first week of December. So it was right before Christmas. And they were saying that the binding would actually gum up their machine. So that's why they had to send it away, because at that point they were making Christmas cards and stuff. So that's the only reason I think they had to send it away at that point. But this is not the book that I'm constantly making my notes and writing in like my LifeBook is. So I didn't have an issue with this going away for a week, but I did with my LifeBook with all of my notes and everything in it. So I went online and found the LifeBook already bound. So I ordered another one. So when I go back through that, it's going to be different notes, or I won't write notes in that. So I just wanted to update you with that.
You can
I don't
find
think
used
everybody
copies.
has to send their books away. That doesn't. It was just the timing, I think, right before Christmas for me.
Anybody else have anything? I'm so glad you guys all came tonight. We had a good group. I really appreciate that. You never know when I'm going to throw in another Zoom call. We'll see. Maybe next Tuesday I'll do something. It just depends. If you didn't hear me whining last week or the week before, the company that I worked for released a new website. And this has been in the works they've been working on this new website for 6 years. And
Wow.
it was a huge undertaking because both the customer facing side and the customer service, retail, business side was all on one site, and they've separated it into two. And then of course everything's different. And so customers, are not happy about the changes. And because we don't retain passwords, or we don't retain payment information, but because we don't retain passwords, every single customer that got on the new site had to renew their password. So, and then there was problems with it. There's always problems with new websites. So I just, the last couple of weeks have been very stressful, and I am so glad that I am a boredom eater and a stress eater, because if I was a stress eater, it would not be pretty, because it has been very, very stressful. But I finally, toward the end of last week, I started to feel like I could breathe again. And today or yesterday, I worked all day. I only worked half day, and it was so much better. So I feel like, all right, we're seeing things start to calm down a little bit, and maybe I can stick to a schedule now. I don't know. We'll see. Thank you, Ellen. I really appreciate that. I honestly hear that a lot, and it makes me a little sad that I have to say I'm astounded at the number of times I see things that make it very clear to me that the coach has never read the LifeBook or never read Habits of Health. Or looked at the guide or whatever. Like, they're like, well, my coach told me that I could do blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but it says right here in the book, like, why would you contradict what it says in the book? But I just try to be the voice of Optavia, even though they probably don't want me to be.
We need you to be, though.
Well, yes, but I don't want to put disclaimers on my pictures, and that makes them crazy. And they've threatened to take away my coaching status before, and they may still do that. I don't know, but I'm not going to do it on my personal page. First of all, I don't use my pictures to try to get clients. I've never once done that, and I will not do that. And so my pictures aren't there to try to draw clients in. They're there to encourage other people that you can do this. You can lose an entire person, which is what I did. And I posted that picture today because all of a sudden it hit me. 160 pounds. That's an entire I literally lost an entire person. And today it just every once in a while it just really hits me. And I'm like, I didn't just lose 20 pounds, which is a feat. I'm like, if somebody has 20 pounds to lose, it's a struggle. I know that, because that last 10 pounds was not fun. But it's, it is possible to do this. And the whole transition issue, it's not that scary. It's not that hard if you follow the plan. Really? I would really love to know what it is about the 5-in-1 page and the transition to living page that is not in accordance with Optavia. Because there's absolutely nothing on either of those pages that does not line up with these books in the guide.
I agree 100%. And I actually was arguing with my coach, and she said Optavia does not support those. So, period.
Optavia doesn't support any Facebook page other than their own.
Right.
So,
Right.
so her Facebook page is not,
Exactly.
but I really,
Exactly. I told
really
you
love
I've learned more from you and your pages than I have from my own coach. Just saying. I don't mean to upset you. I'm sorry.
No, I just wish I knew why people would say that. Like, what is it that, are people just threatened by it because it tells people what Optavia says and doesn't let people get away with, having whatever they want?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I said, well, I'm just not going to argue. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And that
Good.
includes the 5-in-1 and the transitions page.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because they got kicked out.
That could be.
Or who knows? I don't know. I need to not, it's just that it's so dear to my heart. And the groups are so, your success, all of you, your success is so important to me, and making sure that you have the right information is so important to me, that to hear that someone says that it's not legitimate is sad to me. I mean, I'm a coach. I'm an Optavia coach. What more
Right.
do you want?
Right.
I don't know.
Yep.
So, and I think that
Sorry.
I think I'm actually at like a hang on. I've been an associate director at one point. I'm a manager. I'm 70% of the way to associate director. And the only reason why I'm not an associate director is that I don't ask my clients to be coaches. And I don't go out and try to find more clients. So, if I were to tell my, clients that they need to become coaches, then I would be higher up in the ranks. But that doesn't, I'm not going to do that. So.
That's all right.
But again,
I consider you the GOAT. You're the GOAT of Optavia.
But again, separating as well, the 5-in-1 page, the transition page, is really helpful, and you sticking to it, just like with the Rayos or Rows, however you pronounce that. In the other group where my coaches, they constantly promote that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how can they promote it if it's not on plan? So when I was following their page for the first few weeks while I was on plan, I was so confused because they would have 5-in-1, 4-in-2, transitioning people all in the same group. And as a newbie, that was so confusing to me. So when I found Lizabeth, that was like a life changer for me. Life changer for me.
Absolutely.
And my coach didn't understand why I wasn't like getting it. Well, it's because her and her sister are big in their group, and I love her to pieces, don't get me wrong, but it was so confusing because everybody, and they tell you when you post, make sure you put if you're 5-in-1 or in maintenance, and people wouldn't do that. And it's just so confusing. So the way Lizabeth has done it, and the way she comes down and says that's not on plan, that's what we need for those of us that want to stick to plan. Boom, just like Lizabeth has. We need it.
Good. And look at you.
Look at you.
Another week and you're done. Like, you literally have like 8 days, 9 days left.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I'll be going back over 14, element 14 again before, and I'll be watching your videos and the Zoom and element videos to refresh before I start. So, but yeah,
So Becky, are you going into transition or maintenance?
nope, transition.
Okay.
Transition. And I haven't, again, I love my coach. I've known her for years, but I've told her March 1st for me, and she still to this point has not come to me to guide me, to tell me what I should be going for. I know because of Lizabeth. I know because of Lizabeth and because of the Zoom meetings. And even though I read these chapters and I do the chapters in the LifeBook, I retain more, I feel, when I am on a group chat or when it's verbally talked to, not me reading it. Because I have to reread the same stuff over and over and over for it to sink in sometimes, and then I don't remember it. So by doing the group chats and the Zooms and listening to Lizabeth teach us, read to us, it just has helped me. And I am more knowledgeable now than I was. And it's just so appreciated.
Yeah. Well, I say this often, and Ellen, any of you that are going through transition, it's my passion. It is my passion because there is so little information out there. There's so little support out there. And I'm on another transition page, but it doesn't seem like I don't know. There's so little information out there, and it just seems like there's information that it's not consistent. And for me, consistency is really important for me. And for food addicts, like people, I don't know. I think that I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but I do think that there is a reason why there's not a lot of official transition and maintenance support. There's like almost nothing as maintenance goes. And there's, they give you very little information about transition. And I think there's a business reason why it is that way. That's my personal opinion.
Probably.
And it's why I refuse to buy another fueling. I'm not going to do it. I bought what I needed to lose the weight, and then I'm done. I'm not feeding into that business anymore because I don't think it's fair. I think it's very unfair that they don't support the people who have supported them and their business to maintain their weight. So exactly. And I love, my coach was great. She was a fantastic coach. And, but I hear a lot of people who say they still are in touch with their coach, on a regular basis, even in maintenance. And I talk to my coach once in a while. Like I talked to her this week because I sent a client to her. But I think she's not making any money off of me. So, and I don't mean that negatively to her because she really was a great coach, but I do think that is a lot of what a lot of coaches think, is that once my clients aren't on the program anymore, then I'm done. I have one client who is in maintenance, and like I said at the beginning, I'm not a very good talk every week coach, but she knows how to find me, and I do touch base with her every once in a while just to make sure she's doing okay and doesn't need anything. And she knows where to find me if she needs me. But I still consider myself her coach. So I don't know. Anyway, it's 7:20.
Woo, we've gone late.
We did. I'm going to stop recording so that if somebody needs to talk about their underwear, they can.
Oh.